Kylie, I'm going to tell you the story of how I met your mother, again. I actually met your mom when we were just little kids. We went to school together during the 2nd and 3rd grade. We even played soccer together. After the 3rd grade, she was homed, as she likes to say, and I moved away in 6th grade. And just like that, she disappeared from my story. Fast forward to high school. Some old friends from Republic started hanging out with me again. And somehow, your mom heard about it. She got my number and reached out. At the time, I had just moved to the big city, Spokane, my very first apartment. I was so excited. I literally had just set down the last box when I got a knock at the door. I opened the door and there stood your mother, a drink in her hand and wearing her high school Letterman jacket. My first impression was, this girl is wild. She told me that we were going to a party and I was coming. She said it very matter of fact. I hadn't even unpacked a box. I couldn't possibly go. She was just going to have to understand. And that was the first L against your mother. I could not tell you whose house I found myself at or where this party was. I barely remember seeing your mother, who I had come with. I found myself at yet another house party somewhere. I'd never been playing pool inside a garage. Your mother, nowhere in sight. I was playing pool when a guy ran in yelling, "Stephanie's in a fight!" I was a bit confused as to what I was supposed to do about it. I barely knew this crazy chick. I came outside to find this huge cow on top of your mother. Someone pulled the meat wagon off, and I helped your mother to her feet. I told your mother we should probably get out of there, and she asked me to take her to her friend's house. I drove for a long time to a place I had never been. Once we arrived, she hopped out and said thanks, and shut the door, and I was all by myself wondering how I was ever going to get home. I had no GPS, and found myself driving around aimlessly in the dark. It took me nearly 2 hours before I made it back to my apartment. One thing was certain, I was never going to hang out with that girl again. She was trouble. The next day, I was unpacking when my phone rang. Against my better judgment, I answered. There I found myself again, hanging out with this wild, relentless girl. We started hanging out a lot. Parties, games, funny videos. I tried flirting sometimes, but your mom, she kept me in the friend zone. We became best friends over that first year of being friends. I knew I had feelings for her, but I would suppress them so I didn't ruin our friendship. One day a buddy asked if she was single, and my stomach dropped. That's when I realized I wasn't being honest with myself. I liked her a lot. It took me a little bit to build up the courage to tell her my feelings. I texted her one night asking if we could meet up. I told her how I felt. She didn't exactly feel the same, and I walked away thinking, well, that's that. Fast forward a few days later, she's over at my apartment going on and on. I remember looking at her and watching her lips as she talked. They were perfect, even when she was upset. Next thing I knew, I was kissing your mother for the very first time. I still love to kiss those lips. After that, I took her on a date, dinner and a movie. But it was all a ploy to ask your mother to be my girlfriend. And she said yes. I couldn't have been happier. When I look back on that time, I realized falling in love with your mother was the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's the story of how I met your mother. Again,